Here is my recap on Dexter Season 3, Episode 7, entitled Easy as Pie. This episode really revolves around the girl who kept the records at the police department in Miami, who would give Dexter the records that he needed to go after people he was going to kill. Now, she didn't know that that was what he was doing with it, but she was lifelong friends with Dexter's father and kept a lot of Dexter's secrets. She's on her deathbed in this episode, and she keeps telling Dexter, I'm going to hang on until you bring me the best key lime pie ever. So he tries time and time again to bring her a pie, and it's never good enough. Well, she had quite a bit of screen time in this episode, and she calls Dexter in and tells him, I want you to ease my pain. I want to go. I want you to she basically came out and told him, I want you to end my life. She tells Dexter, I know about your secrets. I kept them from your dad. I know the ice truck killer was your brother. If you did this, I want you to know you would be nothing like him, but I really would like you to end my pain. He can't come to terms with that. That's not what he does. He has a code that he lives by, and he just can't bring himself to do that. So again, later he comes back for another visit, and she reveals to him that, oh my gosh, I got bad news today. She said, the doctors tell me I'm going to live at least another month. And she goes, I am so tired of waking up, not being able to breathe. I really need you to do this for me. Well, in the end, the very last scene of this episode is Dexter brought her a key lime pie, and he put some fluid in there that was going to help her go into basically a coma and die. And she knows it. He gives her a piece of the pie, and a couple pieces actually. She eats a couple pieces, and she's grateful. And she does end up passing away. And so he helps end her life. And Dexter says he has some internal dialogue where he said he's never understood the concept of people that he kills begging for their lives. But he could, this actually kind of comforted him a little bit by easing her pain and letting her go in peace. And right before she passed away, he told her, I actually killed my brother. And that was the last thing that she heard. So we have some other stories going on as well. There's a lot going on with Miguel and the DA that is actually trying to help people, the one who actually brought that other case against Miguel to light. And Miguel's got some questions of Dexter and this particular DA. But first, I want to talk about, we've got Dexter getting married, right? So he has to come up with a list of guests that are going to be there. And he ends up talking to Masuka and Batista and inviting them. And each one of them thought they might be his best man. But he says, I'm not having a best man, because he didn't want to have to fight over it. And they all had to do a +1. So in this episode, Batista sees that girl who was the undercover cop who almost busted him for soliciting a prostitute. He wants to bring her. He tries to get close to her. She says, I'm not like that. I don't want to get close to you. I like spending time with you. You're a good friend. But that's pretty much it. And this is after he goes in to kiss her while they're on an elevator. And he says, that's cool. I can live with that. I really like you. I understand you want to be friends, and I'm okay being friends if it means I get to spend time with you. So later on, he goes to her and says, I need a +1 for the wedding. Would you be willing to go? She says, you want to bring me to a wedding? I just told you the other day, I just want to be friends. And he says, look, I understand what you're going through. I understand. I am okay. This is not a boyfriend-girlfriend thing. I just needed to bring a +1, and I want you to be my +1, and that's it. He goes, I've realized that even though I can't be with you, I would do anything to spend time with you. That's what I want. My desire is to spend time with you. And that's when she actually embraces him, kisses him, and it looks like their relationship might go to another level. This episode also started with Dexter in bed with Rita, and he has a dream where Miguel is getting too close to him and what he has to do in his affairs in killing people. And, he has this conversation with Rita when he wakes up from this dream talking about nightmares, and he asks her, have you ever had a dream where you're all exposed? And she said, yeah, I've had dreams where I've gone into work and I've had no panties on, no bottoms. And he's like, yeah, body parts. That's what he was thinking. And it was, two totally different levels of being exposed for what he was considering. So I've got one more story I want to talk about, another story thread before I get to the Miguel and the DA storyline. We have the CI. The CI that has been helping, his name is Anton, has been helping the police department. Dexter's sister Deborah has been getting pretty close to him. And in this episode, the police department decides to put the word out that Anton knows the whereabouts of Freebo. Now, that can't be possible. We know that as the viewers, but the police department doesn't know that that can't be true, and neither does, the people there in Florida. So they're doing this to kind of lure the Skinner killer. I think they called him the skin. I can't remember what they called him. It's like the skin killer. And they're trying to lure this person in because everybody who's been trying to help with the investigation on the Skinner, they have been murdered one by one and getting skinned. So they decide to use Anton as bait. This really upsets Dexter's sister, Deborah. She ends up going there and telling him, basically, you really need to go and leave town. She said, all this stuff is going down, and she kind of dances around the issue of what they're doing. And he says, nope, I don't want to go. I'm going to stay here. And she kind of begs him. I believe they kiss. I got kind of distracted at that time. Somebody came to the door, but I think they kissed. And it looked like he left town. Now, at the same time, Deborah goes into high gear in trying to solve this crime because she wants him to be safe and wants him to come home. She tells the police department, I think he skipped town. And so she goes in and does some investigating, and she realizes that these tree trimmers that they had talked to in one of the first or second episode of this season, she noticed that every victim, their home, the pictures from their homes and the crime scenes and everything, well, not all the crime scenes, but their homes, every one of them who had been killed, had perfectly trimmed palm trees. And she puts two and two together and brings this to Batista, and Batista couldn't believe it. He's like, nice job. Let's bring in every tree trimmer in the area, and we're going to find out what's going on. So she's trying to solve that so that Anton can come home. She actually ends up going to Anton's home and finding out he never left, which concerns her. So now she's kind of hoping that this will get solved sooner rather than later so that his life is not in danger. And come to think of it, they may not have kissed in the car. Like I said, I got distracted because I do know they have a quick moment there when she kind of admits to him she doesn't want him to get hurt, and he said, I'm staying, this is my home. Now we've got a whole nother storyline. This episode opens up with there's a murder in a home where this woman was stabbed with a screwdriver, and there was blood running away from the scene. And Masuka comes in and says, I think I know who did this. Because Dexter originally tells him, at the beginning of the investigation that those aren't footprints, those are sock prints. And Masuka's like, wait, what? Did you just say they're sock prints? And Dexter says, yeah, those are clearly sock prints, and he goes through the whole explanation as to how he knows that. And Masuka goes, this reminds me of a couple of cases we've had in the past, and he named this guy, this Asian guy who was, the suspect. And this is going to tie into what's happening with Miguel and the DA here in a minute, and this is why this storyline was brought in. Masuka tells him this is the guy that we're probably looking for, so they take the blood, and they do take it to the, check it through the database and find out, yep, that's the guy. It's the Asian guy who's the killer. So now Miguel Prado has, a warrant out for this guy's arrest. But he goes to Dexter and says, this guy has gotten off several times in the past because of the DA, this specific girl, and some DAs in the past. They're out golfing, and Miguel's like, you know what, maybe we should take care of this guy ourselves. And Dexter's like, I don't know if that's such a good idea. We can let the police take care of it. And Miguel's like, well, better yet, why don't we go after the DA who's helping him? And Dexter's like, whoa, what? And Miguel's like, don't discount this. This is something that could work. And he said, don't just discount this on the surface. Let me bring you a folder of all the people she's gotten off, and her body of work and how evil she is will show you that we should be going after her. Now, Dexter talks about this in his internal monologue, saying, I can't do that. That goes against the code. She didn't actually pull the trigger on any of these things. She might be helping them, but that's her job, and that's what he tries to tell Miguel. Well, later on in the episode, you've got LaGuerta going to this DA, and they kind of team up to not really go after Prado, but Miguel, but to kind of bring him down because he's not the best guy in the world, too. He has a history of using his stature and his power to take people down, and not necessarily within the law, but because of the position he holds, he's got some strings he can pull. So you've got her wanting to take Miguel down. So they're basically plotting against each other. And she goes into the police department, and they meet about this Asian guy. He decides to turn himself in, and they go in and they talk, and she's like, I'm going to represent him. And Maria LaGuerta is like, how can you represent this guy? You know what he's done. She goes, it's my job. I don't just pick and choose who I represent. I'm a defense attorney. I am going to help anybody who's in that position. I would even help Miguel if he got arrested. They go in to talk about this guy. And Miguel says, I want Dexter, the blood spatter expert, to be in here to show her how powerful the evidence is against her client. So Dexter stays and says, it's like, I can't remember, it was over 1,000,000 to 1 that this person wouldn't have been the killer. And she says, it doesn't matter, we're going to get you off. And the whole time, Miguel keeps looking at Dexter like, see, I told you how bad she is. So I really need you to go after her. Later on, you've got Miguel having dinner with Rita and Dexter and his wife. And he gets really upset when his wife spills some champagne on their floor, or probably wine, some wine on the floor. He kind of goes off the handle. And that's when the wife tells Rita that, with all this stuff going on with the DA, district attorney, and Chicky Hines and all, basically everything from his job is kind of bringing him down. He's getting so irritated with everything, he can't even keep himself in check when they've got company around. That's when Dexter goes and actually talks with Miguel, and Miguel's like, you got to take this girl down. She's coming after me. She's screwing with me. I need your help to kill her. And Dexter flat out refuses to. He says, no, I'm not going to do that. And that's when they have a big falling out, and they end up, Dexter goes home, and Rita even notices that something's wrong. So you can see that there's this decline with Miguel Prado and what's going on with him and how he can handle himself, and he's using basically Dexter as a crutch in this episode, and he's relying more and more on Dexter. And so they have a little bit of a falling out, but by the end of the episode, they do end up talking. They kind of make up a little bit, and that's when Dexter asks him to be his best man. We also had a little bit to do with Miguel's brother. Miguel's brother comes in, and because of what happened in the previous episode and him, taking people, unlawfully imprisoning them, he ends up having to resign from the police department. Miguel helps him so that it doesn't get in the news and it doesn't ruin their family and everything else. But he ends up having to be taken out of commission because of what he did. And so that also upsets Miguel, having to deal with that whole thing. So everything's getting piled on to all of the characters in this season, and it's like a bomb's about to go off. So looks like it was a little defused at the end when Dexter and Miguel talked. They talked in a cafe, and basically they kind of made up after the argument, and you got him asking for him to be his best man. So even though this wasn't there weren't like a bazillion storylines going on, it was a really well done episode, really good for character building. One of the better episodes, I think, of the season. We've got a lot going on, and it's going to get crazier as the season goes on. So we're a little more than halfway through the season. We do have 5 episodes left, and we're going to see what happens with Miguel, Dexter, Rita, their baby, their marriage, all kinds of different things going on. So a lot coming up. If you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You will be notified when new videos go up. And look for Dexter Season 9 coming to Showtime later this year.